Gullapalli and Rao, chair of the L.V. Prasad Eye Institute in Hyderabad, India. Our organization is predominantly or exclusively an eye care organization involved in comprehensive eye care. That means it encompasses prevention, treatment and rehabilitation of everything related to blindness and prevention of blindness. We started our institute in the year 1987. The initial years we were focused on developing a high quality tertiary care center, an education center and research facility in the city of Hyderabad. But then during that period we have realized we were not really reaching out to the people who are in most need of eye care, those who live in the remote rural and tribal areas of India. And to really go out there and help them, we wanted a plan. And to implement that plan, we needed support, and that's where the support from LDS came in a big way. And that made a significant difference in our ability to reach out to 40 different locations in the state of Andhra Pradesh with the development of primary eye care vision centers, each one touching a population of about 50,000 and covering approximately anywhere between 10 to 20 villages each. The main difficulty without this kind of network was that we could not actually reach out to the most neglected populations of India. People who are vulnerable, people who are economically underprivileged, people who live in the remote areas of the country. We tried some door-to-door surveys, but I think at the end of the survey, if we don't follow it up with service, it would end up in actually greater degree of difficulty than before. And I think with the creation of these centers, we could actually begin to provide the service that is very much required in these areas. Because what happens with these centers is the number one cause of visual impairment all over the world, and particularly in the developing world, is uncorrected refractive errors. That is, just not having a pair of glasses. And that's more than 50% of the problem. And through the creation of these centers, with local talent, trained and provided employment, we could take care of that problem significantly and make a huge impact. Yeah, we have approached the LDS charities to help us in giving the financial support to develop the infrastructure, and LDS provided all the funding that is required for two things. One is for the equipment necessary for these primary centers, and second one was for the training of the technicians who are from the same rural communities where we are serving. These were youngsters, a lot of them girls, who are just out of high school, and then they were trained for a year by us as technicians, and then they go back and serve their local communities, providing high quality primary eye care. So it's kind of two things it did. It was transformational in terms of delivery of eye care to those communities, and it was transformational for these youngsters whose life was transformed. And I'll give you one example. The very first vision technician that we trained about 17 years ago has just completed his PhD from the University of New South Wales in Sydney. They then become local heroes, role models for other youth, and the other youth will realize if they work hard enough and if they pursue their ambitions and dreams, they can reach greater heights. They can achieve anything in life. in the past 5-6 years since we have been working together. I would imagine that we have taken care of over 100,000 people in these centers cumulatively, and this number is going to increase exponentially now, because as these centers become more and more experienced and the technicians become more and more experienced and the local populations get used to the idea of seeking health care and going to these centers, the demand for these services will increase. And we expect in the next 5 years each center taking care of 6,000 to 7,000 people a year at least on the minimum side. So if LDS has funded us 50 centers, you can imagine 50 times that kind of number annually. It's been quite effective, and also the very fact that you have a local representative of LDS who interacts with us regularly and who goes on the visits to some of these centers along with our staff, and the interaction between them and the occasional visits from your Indian and Hong Kong office, and the interactions with them have been very useful and effective, because they know firsthand what exactly is happening with the support provided by LDS charities. The one indicator, I think, is the enormous demand that we get from many communities in the two states that where we predominantly work in right now. They are coming out and say, come to our village, we'll give you our ancestral property free of cost for you. You come and set up a vision center in our village. Actually, we are in a kind of an enviable situation that we are not able to accept all those requests because our bandwidth is just not broad enough to be able to take care of all those requests. So that in the initial period we used to rent space in the villages, but now we are getting a space donated in most of the villages where we are starting these centers. The most beneficial thing in our collaboration is the fact that we are getting these populations in these remote areas into the habit of seeking health care beyond eye care, because in many places where we have these centers, this is the only health care outpost. So it's not beyond eye care, they are getting into the habit, and that is very powerful. Because we are now looking at adding a few other components of general primary health care. In some of these centers we have begun to look at them for hypertension, diabetes, some of the conditions what we consider as causes of causes for blindness. Until now we were focused on just the causes, now we want to go beyond that and go into causes of causes. So I think that will have a much larger impact. Leaving us with our autonomy without interfering, and guiding us wherever we require their guidance. I think it's been a great partner, a pleasure to work with, and a partner that is very timely, and whenever there is once the agreement is reached, everything is done without any further hassles. So it's always been a pleasure to work with LDS Charities. Very compassionate, caring, and then worries about the impact that is making on the populations that it is planning to serve. It's because of the not only giving financial support, but also literally worrying, coming and looking at what exactly is happening to make sure that the services that are promised are actually delivered in a way they are supposed to be delivered. When an organization is looking at those criteria, obviously it's a very caring organization. I'm sure it can be. I think the key is if LDS can partner with the right local partner or an international partner who has experience in these kinds of things, I see no reason why it cannot be replicated. Yeah, LDS Charities has been partnering with us for over 5 years now, and they have made a significant addition to our work in strengthening our ability to provide high quality primary eye care in the remotest rural parts and tribal areas where we work in the two states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the new state. And we will be, based on the lessons we have learned from this, we are now going into two other states, the states of Orissa, which is one of the poorest states in India, and Karnataka, which is our neighboring state. And the other important thing, I think, impact is the way it is being replicated. Like Government of India has now decided in the next 5 years, it's going to develop 4,000 such primary eye care centers in the government sector. That is fantastic. That means that we have an impact. Just few days ago, this Health Secretary of the state of Telangana visited me and has requested me to set up vision center, this primary eye care models within the government system as a pilot project. And if this pilot worked, they would like to hand over most of their primary centers to us to develop vision centers in the primary health centers of the government sector. And Government of Australia for the past 5 years has given nearly $70 million to develop similar models in all over Southeast Asia. So these are all very powerful examples of that this model really worked, and what began as a small experiment is now exploding all over the world. As we move forwards, we are going to improve upon this model. We are going to increase in size both in depth and breadth, and I'm sure that we will be together touching the lives of millions of people in the years to come.